Hey guys, this is Melissa with Mesquite Farm. Today we're going to make biscuits from scratch. It's not as difficult as it seems. I spent about 2 years trying to perfect it and realized in that time frame that really it's not so much about the ingredients as it is the technique. So there's certain things about making biscuits that you're looking for, certain physical attributes of the mixture that you want to check and make sure that you're reaching before you put them on the pan and get them in the oven. So those are the things I'm really going to point out to you today. Not so much the importance of having specific types of ingredients. I mean, obviously you need certain things, but quality isn't necessarily what's going to make the difference. It's going to be paying attention to those techniques. So what I have here is the ingredients for the biscuits, and then some utensils that you're going to need. And to start, you need 2 cups of flour, which I've got here in this bowl. You're going to need a teaspoon of sugar, a tablespoon of baking powder, a teaspoon of salt, 8 tablespoons of cold butter. Now, one of the important things is this butter be cold. And the recipe calls for 3/4 of a cup of milk. I have not made a batch yet that really only required 3/4 of a cup of milk. So I always start with 1 cup and then go from there. Also, I don't have milk right now, so I'm using half and half. We'll see what happens. I'm just gonna wing it and go with it and see how it goes. The other thing you need is, this is my biscuit spoon, just a wooden spoon that I've had for, this thing might be older than me actually, but that's my biscuit spoon, and a biscuit cutter, and a pastry blender or a pastry cutter. So let's get started. To the flour mixture, I'm going to add the teaspoon of sugar, the tablespoon of baking powder, teaspoon of salt. Oh goodness, that's what happens when you use real salt. And I'm gonna mix that up a bit. Oh yeah, and you need a bowl to put all this in. And also, be prepared to get it all over yourself. That's fine. It makes it taste better. Okay, then we're going to take the butter and we're gonna drop it in the bowl. Set that aside. And we're gonna grab our trusty pastry blender cutter here, and I'm gonna start cutting into this and mixing this butter into the flour, okay? And the thing that I'm looking for, the technique that I want you to watch for is that you're gonna keep cutting this butter in until it stops all sticking to your cutters, to your blades on this, okay? So just keep going. I know a lot of cooking shows, recipes, people say, cut it until it represents cornmeal. No, that's not what I'm after. I actually like having a couple of big dollops of butter in there. Not big, but maybe pea-sized chunks of butter in the mixture. But really what I'm after is for it to stop sticking to those blades. So we're just gonna keep cutting it in. This is one of those things where I feel like our grandmas and great-grandmas made biscuits so much that they didn't really understand or realize that it was the technique more than anything else that made the difference in the biscuits. And this, I'm doing basically a milk biscuit. You could do the same with buttermilk biscuits. Cream biscuits are a show for another day. All right, we're getting close. See how there's much less sticking to the blades? So we're getting really close. You can kind of scrape off the stuff that gets stuck on the side and then just keep going. We're getting close. Oh, a little bit more. Let's see. Okay, see, now we're getting real close. So I'm gonna go ahead and scrape this out and go a couple more times, just see where we're at. And make sure, really sure that that butter is cold before you put it in here. All right, I consider that good. Okay, we've got just a few little chunks. That one's kind of big, so I might just kind of mash it in there with some of the flour. It doesn't really matter. It's biscuits. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so now we've got to add the milk. And this is the next part where technique makes a difference. So I've got my cup here. The recipe calls for 3/4 of a cup. So that's what I'm going to start with. But the reality is that I'm actually looking for a certain consistency with the dough, and that's what I'm going to show you as we get into it. So I'm going to start by pouring in 3/4 of a cup. Close enough. Then we're going to start mixing it together with our spoon. Okay. And here what I'm looking for is for all of the flour, the dry flour, to be incorporated into the dough. Okay. I want it coming off of the sides, and I want it all incorporated. So you can see here, it's already pretty, I've got the liquid incorporated, but I still got a lot of dry stuff here on the sides. A lot of dry flour in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some more. Now we're getting somewhere here. A little bit more. And you don't have to add a lot at a time. Maybe a tablespoon if you really feel like you need to measure it. So it's going to be a pretty sticky dough by the time you're done. The other thing is you don't want to manipulate this too much once you get the liquid in. So I'm not interested in sitting here and beating this to death to incorporate that flour. I want it to incorporate quickly so we can move on because I don't want tough biscuits. All right, so, oh, we're so close. It's starting to come together into a ball. We've almost got everything off. I think that looks good. Okay, so you can see here it started to form its own ball. The dry stuff on the sides is incorporated, and this is exactly what we're looking for. So that's all that's left of the milk. So I used almost an entire cup of milk for this. Now, the next thing I need is some flour, which I forgot to set aside for myself, so I'll be right back. So now this is ready to come out of the bowl. This is the fun part where you get your hands all sticky. Just kind of roll it around in here a couple more times. Make sure you get all that goodness in there. Got a little bit down here on the bottom I want to get in there. Okay, now, once I put this dough out on the table, I don't want to knead it more than 3 or 4 times. Okay, again, we don't want to be manipulating it a lot because that can affect its tenderness. So I'm going to put a little bit of flour here on my board, pull out the dough, and I'm just going to roll it 3 or 4 times. That's it. I'm just going to knead it, pull it up, 3 and 4. That's it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press it out to about half an inch thick, but apparently I do it thicker than that, as I've been told recently. So you can measure it if you want to. You can eyeball it if you want to. Whatever makes you happy. So I'm just pressing it out, and you can see in here these little bits of butter. That's deliciousness, and it's also going to be what helps create those flaky layers in your dough. All right. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so now you just take your biscuit cutter. And here's the thing I want you to know about this. When you're cutting out your biscuits, do not twist as you go down. You want to go down and then twist. Okay, and I'll show you why. Down and then twist. And the reason you want to do that is because if you twist as you go down, you're going to seal up all of these edges and your biscuit won't be able to rise. And it can be lopsided and janky, and we don't want that. So then just keep going around. You can twist, move it around, whatever you want to do. Just don't twist as you go down. And I like to set them in my pan close to each other, close to each other and touching, but not crammed up against each other either. Get one more out of it? I think I can. Here's the other thing to remember. The biscuits that you cut out of this first rollout here are going to be the most tender. Just like I was saying before, the more you work this dough, the less tender your biscuits are going to be. So I'm just going to roll this, knead this a couple more times. And And press it out just like before, and you're just going to keep doing this until you get all of the dough used up. Little sticky under there. And then this little guy at the end, what I usually try to do is just kind of cram him in the cookie cutter there just to sort of get some sort of biscuit type-esque shape out of it. You know, something like that. He's still going to get eaten, I promise. And he goes on the end. All right, and then for me, there's a 425-degree oven. And for my oven, these go for about 15 to 20 minutes. When you put your biscuits in the oven and you have a time on it, like 15 to 20, start with the lowest time. Set your timer for that low time and then start checking them. They may need to be in there for a few minutes longer. Everybody's oven is different. So just keep checking them periodically until they get nice and golden brown. And I will show you that here in just a minute. I'm going to clean up, get these in the oven, and we'll be back. Okay, so we're at 15 minutes. We're just going to do a quick check here. Take a look at them. So they're starting to get golden brown, but I'd like to have them in there for a few more minutes. I'm going to turn them too, because you can see this side's getting a little more brown than the other side was. So we're just going to turn them, close it back up, and then I'm going to turn the oven lights on so that I can keep an eye on them for the next couple of minutes until they're done to the way I like it. All right, so we've got our biscuits ready to go out of the oven. I want to show you this side. You see right there those layers happening? You think you can only get those in canned biscuits, but it's not true. So we're just gonna plate these up real quick. Look at that. Oh, look. Oh, yum. Can't wait to put some butter, some peach jam, or maybe some apple butter. Oh my goodness. It's perfect. Let's get that out of the way. I'm going to crack one of these open for you. That's this guy right here. He looks real good. It's just perfect flaky layers. Just keep an eye out for those tricks that I told you. Make sure that you use the pastry blender till the stuff no longer sticks. It's not going to look like cornmeal. You're going to have some chunks of butter in it. That's fine. That's how you get these layers in there, right? Start with the amount of liquid that they recommend, and then if you need more, to get the dry flour off the side of the bowl and get it together in a dough. You don't need it a ton, and you can have yourself perfect biscuits anytime. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later. Bye.